Okay, so today I am doing lesson number 334 of a workbook of A Course in Miracles. I know many of you are on different lessons. You're further ahead. I don't know what day it actually is anymore. Um, Funny part about it is I read this lesson a couple days ago, and one line in here just sort of sent me. And I just sort of sat there and I never went any further. So the next day, um, I know it was yesterday. It was a busy day. There was a lot of things going on, and I sat down. And I said, "Okay, I'm gonna record the video for the lesson." And I opened, set everything up, and here I was. And I read it, and I just sunk into this experience. And I don't know. I sat here, and then I don't really know what happened, but um, I never got around to doing it. So today is lesson number 334. Today I claim the gifts forgiveness gives. It's interesting. The fact that the the element in the lesson is always now. Although here Jesus is gonna tell us, he's gonna show us that as we embark upon this journey, there are gifts that are waiting for us along the way that we receive as we take the journey, as we journey through space and time, not um, not let's call it by traveling in a sense on a timeline, but by reviewing what has gone on within our heart and our mind that has participated in the denial of reality, in denial of our heritage, in denial of the fact that we are God's son and God is our Father, and we were created to share everything with Him. So we're in this journey, and the return journey, consists of looking at where we find ourselves and how we got to the point in our mind where this has occurred, and allow forgiveness to free our mind from all the blockages that keep us from the experience of communication with our reality and opening ourselves up to the utilization of what we really are, rather than attempting to make safe and ensure the survival of what we think we are as bodies in space and time. I will not wait another day to find the treasures which my Father offers me. There's the element of it's always now. I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to, but in the decision to not wait any longer is the recognition that I need to loose myself from the world as I thought it was composed, and as I thought the composition was what was causing me to act and behave and be the way I was within space-time, when in fact it was just misperceptions. And this next line is the one. Illusions must be vain. Of course, it doesn't matter. And ultimately, this is a point that Jesus tries to drive deep within our mind and our heart, in order to help us understand the nature, and he talks about it, of the nature of our frightened heart and bewildered mind. All illusions are vain imaginings, even illusions in the sense of happiness, even an illusion wherein which we think we've achieved the ability to be is false when it's achieved in our minds by thinking we're controlling the world and keeping everything at bay. Illusions must be vain, and dreams, this is a beautiful line, and dreams are gone, even while they are woven out of thoughts that rest on false perception. Yes, the world, now the entire world rests on false perception of the idea of separation. True, good, bad, or indifferent, the entire world rests on a false understanding of ourself. Okay? Now, when we achieve true perception and we recognize who we are as we were created and recognize that the world is but a dream, now our mind can begin to align and converge and become willing to do what God would have us do and be as God has created us to be, simply because we've recognized the vanity of all illusions and no longer want to be an illusion maker. Yet, as we forgive ourselves, we become the maker of an illusion of forgiveness that helps realign our heart and our mind with the truth of who we are. Okay? As we integrate that recognition, that total recall back into our awareness and free ourselves of all the false perception that had been utilized by the ego to deny our reality and keep us separate. And as this is lovely, deny us the gifts that God created us to be to himself, to each other, and then the gifts that come as part of his divine nature and get discovered within our own divine nature and are made sure through our utilization, as Jesus said earlier in the morning. Let's take these ideas out for a ride, take for a test drive. Utilize these ideas, prove to yourself that they are true, and in the proving to yourself of the truth and the actualization, in the actualization and realization of the ideas comes the recognition of the person of who you are as created by the Father, and the re-experiencing of the power of love that you were created to be and have always been. Okay? Let me not accept such meager gifts again today. God's voice is offering the peace of God to all who hear and choose to follow him. God's voice speaks to me throughout the day, yet as I must choose to listen. Nothing happens but by my choice. And what's going to occur to you when you make this decision is you're going to be presented with a choice. Somewhere all of a sudden you realize, oh, I have a choice. And instead of choosing once again an illusion woven out of thoughts that rest on false perception, you will just simply say, no, I no longer want to do that. Now, you're not responsible for the knowing of how to do that. You are responsible for the willingness to open your mind to learn how to do that, and then the continued utilization of the learning as a way of signaling, through the decision that you're making, your readiness to both hear God's voice and to choose to follow. And what you're going to begin to see and experience is more and more things that previously seemed to occur to you, how should I, just by chance or by accident, or for no reason that you know of, you will begin to see and experience and be shown in instances when you stop how it's been your tacit choice being made in your unconscious. And now that you have chosen to no longer do this today, you'll recognize how you have been making those choices in a moment when you see that you have always had a choice in a place and for something that you didn't know you had even been choosing for, because you had desired the amnesia and the unconsciousness of the dream of separation rather than the divine awareness that you were created as and you were created to be and share and extend. God's voice is offering the peace of God to me. Just before I started this video, I had this thought, and I want to see if I can we have, in the dream of forgetting, we have labored under the assumption that we have not had a choice. The new direction that we are receiving is that nothing has happened but by our choice. Okay? Now, we needed to be made aware of it, and so we have been told, and therefore we are now responsible. Okay? And so I go to find the treasures God has given me. I seek but the eternal, for your son cannot be content with nothing less than this. What then can be his solace but what you are offering to his bewildered mind, frightened heart, to give him certainty and bring him peace? Okay. It's very hard to convince anyone who has not had the experience that the bewilderment they experience in their mind and the fear that they experience in their heart, okay, can simply give way to the peace of God by making a choice for something other than everything we have chosen. It's very hard for a mind that's dealing with the fear and bewilderment in an attempt to no longer exist like that in the world. It's very hard to get that mind to slow down and stop long enough for it to see how much tension and how much of that fear and bewilderment is being held simply because it will not stop and seek peace where peace really is. Many of you who have had the experience and in the joyful recognition that came with the experience came the motivation for the continuation of the utilization of the principles, simply because you had gotten to the end of your desire to live the way you were living within the world of space and time. Simply were sick and tired of being sick and tired and knew not what to do. Okay? And when the experience came, the simplicity, there's a line, of course, it says, oh, the simplicity of salvation is, oh, I but do this to myself. And what I'm doing has no reality, yet the reality that I gave it has taken away my ability to experience my reality. Now, when you have that moment, and all of a sudden, the peace of God enters your heart and mind, and the tension goes out of your system, and you sit there in a moment of pristine rest and innocence, okay? Until that you've had that first experience, there was no way in the world you would have ever thought to look there to find what you thought you were going to find everywhere else you were looking. And yet the solution was simple. Okay? That's what we're after. That's what this is talking about. This your will to me. For thus I will behold my sinlessness. Today I would behold my brother's sinlessness. That instant where we go, where the judgment, we judge, the judgment that we make so fast in our mind causes our heart to enter into an experience that necessitates, that necessitates an action in order to keep us from sinking into the depth of despair that we're really experiencing underneath as we continue to think we can seek answer. Okay, now it's hard to convince anyone that it's just simply in the stopping and asking for help where the answer comes, and you can know. Someone says, oh, I could have had a V8. When you begin to recognize, oh, I could have had a V8, the joy of the V8, the joy of the peace of God becomes the motivation. And the experience and the awareness that that's been in you always and will always be there, never to leave, is an incredible treasure to find. There may be a moment when you feel a little embarrassed by the fact that it's been there all along, and exactly what you were looking for had been right where you left it all along, and there was never any need for you to go anyplace at all. To discover the joy of your own innocence, of the sinlessness of the Son of God, the guiltlessness that in which you and your brother were created. And in attempt to make anything true in the world through the mindless activity in it keeps us from the awareness of that joy, of that wholeness, of that sinness, of that perfection. And it's just that tiny shift. Many of you know what I'm talking about. And you would have never thought before. And you could watch, and you watch as you see your brothers do it to themselves as well, with the prayer in your heart that they will just stop and give themselves that break and claim the gifts that have been waiting in them for a moment when they utilize forgiveness to discover what can't be discovered in the world because it's not in the world, it's within you. And forgiveness is the key to allowing that discovery to be made.